Well, let's pray, everyone. Heavenly Father, Lord and Master, thank you for this day. Thank you for this Tuesday at lunchtime. Thank you for everyone on the Zoom call and those that can't join us today in their respective place of work. And I pray a special blessing over their communities, their workplaces, their families. Pray that you hold and keep them all the days of their lives, Lord. At the same time, I pray over the next 6 to 7 weeks that we'll spend together in the Faith and Finances Facilitator training. Lord, may it be rich, may it be full, and may you build our capacity to take this training back into our neighborhoods, into our places of ministry, of work, or whatever you see fit, Lord. May you equip us to be the saints and reach your people, God, especially as we look to serve those who might be experiencing some level of financial chaos or exploitation, Lord. We believe that this program transforms lives, and we've seen it for 10 years. And so we're thankful to be a mouthpiece in this space. I pray over Kathleen and I as we get to facilitate this space. And Lord, just thank you again for the blessing that the CCT and Fresno Pacific University are in our Central Valley. We love you. We give you thanks. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So welcome to Faith and Finances, y'all. Again, my name is Carlos, and my actual title here at the university is the Executive Director of the Center for Community Transformation that runs these Faith and Finances programs. And I have been a Faith and Finances facilitator since 2012. It's kind of hard to think that it's been that long. And the CCT is the West Coast Training Hub for the Chalmers Center, which administers the Faith and Finances program, and they're located in Georgia. And we've operated that way since 2014. I am married. I have an 8-year-old daughter named Ella and a 4-year-old son named Mateo, which take up most of my free time outside of ministry. And I'm excited to be here with y'all. I think something that I'm really excited about right now is baseball playoffs are starting this week. And so if you hear someone yelling in Southeast Fresno, it's probably me watching the baseball game.
Go Mookie.
Go Mookie. But that's a little bit about me. Kathleen, would you mind introducing yourself to the group?
No, happy to. I am working at the CCT, and one of my main roles is helping with faith and finance. I took the facilitator training 3 years ago and have taught it in local community, mainly working in the homeless area. It's been interesting to hear about people and their ideas on where to take the training. Some of you have your own groups to teach it to, but others, I've heard them talking about wanting to work with domestic violence shelters or teenage moms, even, teaching them faith and finance. So it's exciting for me to hear all the different ways that this program can be used to further your ministry as well as God's kingdom. So it's a joy to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathleen. And so y'all know a little bit about us now. What I'd ask for y'all to do is if you could please put your name, your city, where you're from, as well as the organization that you're representing. If you could stick that in the chat. Kathleen and I know y'all by an Excel spreadsheet. And so some of you we do know personally. But again, if you could put that in the chat just so everybody knows who's in our space today, that'd be fantastic. And just for context, we have 18 people signed up for this training. There's multiple people that can't be with us today. There's a few that can't join us for the longevity of the program during the lunch hour. But again, there's a group of about 18 of us that you'll see active in the classroom shell. So I see Don from Love Inc. and Don is in Merced. Hey, Brian. Good afternoon. Good morning. Glad you're here. See Marissa also in Merced. I don't know if you heard me joking with the group earlier, Kathleen, but like half of our group is actually from Merced.
Oh,
so
that's
Mario,
terrific.
Marissa, Don, Kathy, they're all in Merced.
Ah, great.
Renita's in Fresno, Brian's in Fresno. Jennifer, are you located in Fresno by chance? Or where are you located? I know she's driving here. And then I'm pretty sure Daisy.
Hi,
Daisy's
Carlos.
Mhm.
This is Jennifer. I'm sorry, I'm still driving, so I cannot put it in the chat, but I am from Fresno.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer. I'll let you drive, so please be safe en route here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and thank you all for sticking that in the chat and where you're from. Only because as we share our screen, I want y'all to see the classroom space. I know that a lot of y'all have been pretty active already on the classroom shell, but let me go ahead and pull this up. Do y'all see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So a couple things, and I have a little bit of different view than you do because as the lead facilitator for this, I have a design side, but on the teaching side, this is probably what your view looks like. And so for those of you all, again, who have been inside the course shell already, this is what you've seen. And I just want to walk through just how this course is laid out. So each week there's going to be a video component for y'all to watch. It's anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes. Some of that information is, I would say, like big picture, framework, theology. Some of it could be practical on how to run a faith and finances course, but there's a video component from week to week. For those of y'all who maybe haven't navigated a classroom shell online, or maybe this is a new platform that you haven't navigated before, there are a couple things that are really helpful to me to navigate. And Kathleen, definitely jump in if there's any other things that you feel might be helpful to folks. But up here are little bubbles and an arrow to navigate pages. Rather than going back and clicking on the next thing, I would encourage you, just for ease, click on the next bubble and it'll take you to the next page. Right, and so there's an intro section that has been open to you since we launched the class last week, and it's just learning the lingo, right? What an ally, what an advocate, what a facilitator, a lead trainer, and a participant are. One part of what we try our best to do in this facilitator training is paint a clear picture for what it is to run faith and finances courses. The reality is that there is a level of care and work in running a program. And so for those of you who are going to be lead facilitators and you're going to lead a class in your church, in your nonprofit, or in your neighborhood, I run classes in Section 8 housing community centers myself. And so that space is a little bit different, but there's everything from food and childcare and coordinating rooms and ordering materials. And so part of our journey together is helping explain all the work that goes into that. But I don't want it to seem like there's a ton of work, but there is a level of care when it comes to facilitating a course. And so again, there's different roles that Chalmers recommends that we allocate into our team. You have an overview of the curriculum for you to see, as well as a copy of the facilitator guide in a digital version. One of the nice things for those of y'all who are located in the Central Valley is that we have a large grant from the Lilly Endowment that actually pays to subsidize, or in some seasons, if we can find like this one, to fully pay for the cost of facilitator training. And so I think if you go through Chalmers Direct, it's between like $275 to $400 for the training. And so thankfully, the Lilly Endowment pays for the majority of these costs, as well as a facilitator guide for each of you to lead the program. So again, there's a copy of the digital version, but by the fourth week in the course, you will actually receive a physical copy from us. Excuse me. And so at some point in the next couple of weeks, someone on our team will be contacting you to confirm your mailing address. Or you're always welcome to come by the office and pick it up. We'd love to have a cup of coffee with y'all, or break bread together as well. All right. In the last component on almost every section is there's a comment section. Part of what I would say is on a week-to-week basis, we are probably going to allocate anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, maybe 4 at the most, to do all the coursework and the homework that comes with it. That includes all the commenting on the sections, right? And so some of y'all have already jumped into this. Some of y'all did this 6 days ago. I remember getting the emails like, hey, someone commented, right? This is fantastic. Some of you all are ahead of the game. And so I really encourage you to participate in the comment section, because that's how we're learning from each other and building community. This weekly check-in normally isn't part of the online course. Usually it's a self-paced training, but we add this weekly check-in to be a helpful resource to y'all along the way. But before I continue on to the next page, Kathleen, anything you'd add up to this point?
No, Carlos and I will jump in from time to time and make comments on your comments. But again, I would encourage you to dialogue amongst yourselves, comment on other people's comments. And that really spurs some good discussion and deeper learning.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Kathleen. And as you continue on, there's going to be different sections to interact with. And then usually by the end of it, in every week, there's a dive deeper section. While this isn't core content and requirement of like, you have to do this part of the course, it's something for y'all's information. If you want to learn more about financial literacy or the ecosystem of faith and finances, I find these resources to be incredible. Some of them can be done in like 10 minutes. Some of them might take a little bit longer. But here, you have a video and you have I think this is a Word doc. Oh, it's not a Word. Oh, it's an actual course. Excuse me. It was a Word doc once upon a time. Now you can pay $9 for this course. This is not an infomercial. I promise I did not plan to do that for y'all. But yeah, again, it seems like they actually have taken this concept of when helping hurts and made it an actual course. All right. And then Zoom information at the very end. You should have received an email with the link to this, as well as a calendar invite. And if by chance you can't find any of those in a given week, the Zoom information is also here. And so if you click on this, it'll bring you directly into the course. All right. So you saw there was that piece there that, this is it. Here, let me exit really quick. I'm going to come over here. So now in Unit 1, part of what every week will now look like is you're going to have a prayer for elite trainers somewhere around the country. You might recognize some people in this course because some of us actually contributed a prayer to each week, but my friend Marcia, who lives in Southern California, is the one leading our prayer time this morning. And so if you haven't noticed up until this point, this is a faith-centered program. The program itself is also gospel-centered. And so while there's all these biblical principles, a lot of it is in this framework of reconciliation with self, with God, with others, and God's creation. And so keep that in mind, that there's fantastic financial resources like budgeting and accounting and planning, etc. But there's also the biblical component where it's not just a verse slapped into the curriculum. It's really well integrated into teaching the course. And so we encourage you, lean into the prayers. Then there's the videos I mentioned before. And then every week there's going to be different content. I would say that week 1's pretty light on homework, if you will. A lot of it's reading and watching and responding. And then at the end of every section, there's a prayer section where we have multiple prayer points. I really do encourage you, as you're going through this journey, to set time aside to pray through these specific things and see what God opens up for you. As I've talked to people over the past, I don't know, we've done we started doing these online trainings in 2019, I believe. So we probably have like 9 or 10 courses that we've done online. Is the folks that have come through the courses who go on to become facilitators have really said that the content was fantastic, but God really opened up his intentions for this in their community through prayer. And so I wouldn't shy away from this. And if you're like, hey, I'm not sure I'm a praying person, on my own, or would like to do this in community, like reach out to us. We'd love to walk with you all and do that with you as well. Kathleen, anything you'd mention about week 1?
I don't think so. No, but as we go through our check-ins, feel free to use the chat room for any questions that come up. I find sometimes if one of us is speaking, something pops in your mind and we want to capture that or respond to it. So just put something in the chat room and we can address it when there's a little break.
Absolutely. Here's the one thing I will disclose to you all is like I can see you in the course, but I can also see how far you are in the course. And so if by chance some of y'all maybe fall behind, you'll probably receive a friendly email and maybe a friendly phone call from someone on our team if it's not Kathleen and I. Just encourage you to finish. But if you are having trouble maybe making time or are struggling with a topic, like again, we're here to help. And we're here to support you in this journey. Okay. I'm going to pull down my screen so I can see all of your faces. Can y'all see me okay? Okay. Any questions up until now?
I just have one question.
Go for it,
I
Daisy.
noticed, this is Daisy Easter. I noticed I'm not seeing my face on the screen. Is it something with my
Yeah.
computer?
So if you hover with your little pointer down to the bottom left of the Zoom call, there's a microphone and underneath it says mute. And then if you see a little video camera, it says start video. If you click on that button, it should start your camera if you have a camera on your computer. I see Kathy now. All right.
Carlos, I have a question.
Go for it, Don.
As we progress, through the curriculum and such, when we actually leave in that curriculum and get off, when we come back in.
Sorry, Don. For some reason, could you come closer to the microphone? I'm having a little bit trouble hearing you.
Okay. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So as we go through the curriculum, when we are in the progress of it and we exit, will it automatically bring us back to the point that we left off, or will we have to go back in and search where we left off?
So your question is like if I started unit 1 and I got through this 3rd activity, but I still have 2 more, will it bring me back to that place?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So at the end of each week, and I don't have this ability because I have the teaching role, but when you go to a step, at the bottom of each section, there'll be a blue bubble that says complete step. Do some of y'all recall seeing that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the only thing I would say is like as you finish a section, like press complete step. But yeah, as you are going through the course, if you go through the 2nd step and come back to it later, it'll keep your progress saved.
Thank you.
But I do, and the system is really smart where like if it sees that you logged in to a section, it'll show me that you have at least looked at that section. And I'm glad you actually brought this up, Don, because if you don't click the complete step, it might not show that you finished that section. So I really do encourage y'all click that blue bubble at the bottom of each section. The other thing that I'll mention too about the curriculum is like on my end, can you all see these dates right here, like September 27th through the 8th? I've had people in our first course that went through the course material in like 3 days, right? which was great in terms of like completing the program, but in terms of like actually spending the time praying through and listening and reading things, I don't know how much they got out of that progress. So we've kind of changed that to where we only unlock a course a week at a time, right? So our weeks start at 12:01 on Monday morning, and it closes at 11:59 on Sunday night. And so for y'all to complete the step on time, I encourage you to get it done before Sunday at 11:59. You do have some, I don't know if I should say this up front, but you do have some leeway if you get a little behind in completing things over time. The only issue with that is that you're going to start getting weeks that pile on top of each other, and I really don't encourage you to fall behind. Again, in terms of like planning wise, 1, 2, 3 hours a week of work. And so just like going back to school, it's a discipline, right? And so finding that specific time block to be able to knock these things out will be important in this process. But great question, Don. Thank you for bringing that up. Does anybody else have a question by chance?
Yeah, I've got a question here.
And I sorry, I see your name is Envisioning Success. What is your name?
Sorry, my name is Gabriel. This is from my Gmail account.
Oh, okay. Do you mind if I change your name to Gabriel?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, Gabriel, go ahead. What's your question?
I was a little late because I didn't have Zoom on my phone. So how do you get to this website and this curriculum in order to start?
Let me see. So let me bring this up really quick. Sorry, deployment. This the course shell itself, you should have received an email to sign up for an account. And if you haven't, Gabriel, you're with Summacom, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let me see. So I'm going to share my screen again. And then I don't see you in here yet, Gabriel. I'll have to go into the back end and see if you've already been sent the invitation. But the email that I have for you here is jovelgabriel300@gmail.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you should have received an email from the Pathright platform to sign up for an account. Have you been able to do that yet?
No, I have not.
Okay, so we'll reach out to you after class to help you set up your account. That way you have access to the course shell.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Has anybody else had trouble signing up for an account by chance? Or are you guys all okay? Did someone say yes, they had trouble?
Yes, Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Yeah.
Can we also reach out to you after class to make sure you're all set up?
Okay.
I'm glad we're asking these questions now and working all the kinks out so you guys are good to go for class. Okay. No other questions, y'all? Okay. There's a couple things that I want to mention, especially as we start talking about the Faith and Finances program. Some of us might be familiar with like other financial education programs. Do you guys know any other programs that maybe you've seen churches or nonprofits use?
Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, so there's Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University. Fantastic program.
Other one.
I'm sorry, Don?
Crown Ministries.
Crown Ministries, also another popular church program. There's a lot of fantastic financial literacy education programs out there. My wife and I have gone through Financial Peace University, excellent resource for us, especially at the beginning of our marriage, is when we didn't agree on finances. But part of what also in our context, especially for those of us who may say that we serve in our context, the least, the last, and the lost, the marginalized, low to moderate income populations. This curriculum is more geared towards that context versus something like Dave Ramsey, which usually is a little bit more middle class. And when I think of like Dave Ramsey's, one of the questions is like, what would you do with a $10,000 investment? And in my work in community, oftentimes I'm trying to help my neighbors set up a $200 savings account in 3 months, right? So the pedagogy is very different, the context is very different, and it's geared very specifically for people who might come from or are trending away from a background from poverty, if you will. And that context is specific to the way, and we'll cover this in the coming weeks, but something that learners will distinguish as an oral learner and a written learner, right? And I want to distinguish these two, where like an oral learner often learns through stories and communicating with one another, where like a written learner would be able to pick up a book and read it in its entirety in one sitting, and be okay with reading on a computer, right? You'll see for us, there's videos, there's computer, there's some interactive activities that we'll be able to do. There's a little bit more care that way versus other things that a written learner may be more comfortable with. And so part of what we would say is we don't necessarily want to set up like a talking head video component where you're just watching a video and responding. There's actually a live person in the classroom facilitating these courses. And our hope is that it's going to be each of y'all leading these courses in your context. Just like Kathleen and I are able to lead courses in our own context, y'all will be doing some of the same. And so I would say that the Faith and Finances approach is a little bit more interactive and relational compared to other programs that might have different setups. And that doesn't mean that one's right or wrong. It just means that there's a little bit different approach in the things that the Faith and Finances programs does. The other piece that I appreciate about the Faith and Finances program is that it appeals to a lot of different learning styles and education levels versus people who might be used to like a traditional classroom. I also love that it has, as I mentioned before, deep biblical integration versus something that could be modular or optional along the way. It also, for our participants in the class as well as our facilitators, it requires really only a basic financial knowledge to be able to facilitate the programs, because part of what we'd encourage you to do is take the facilitator manual. And if you took the facilitator manual and just read the program word for word, you would do an excellent job, right, in facilitating that class. Now, it's probably not ideal for y'all to sit up front, with your manual and just read out of the manual, right? I think each of you want to be able to put it in your own words and your own twist. But I'm really impressed by the curriculum itself, that you really, again, could pick it up and just read it word for word and do a pretty good job facilitating the program. And you don't need to be a financial analyst to be able to lead it, because you can guide them through the curriculum. While others programs might encourage people to be financial planners or advisors or consultants, et cetera, et cetera.
And I would add that interactive style in teaching, once you organize your own group to lead a faith and finance class, it's that interaction that really makes the program rich. And you're giving your participants more dignity, because you're dealing with the lower income people who already feel a bit marginalized or have some kind of challenges already. So by drawing them out, having them share and really interact in the class, just week by week, they come out and talk more and share more. You learn more and how to really come alongside of them for the long term.
That's really well said, Kathleen. I would say the last thing I would say too about maybe the distinction about like faith and finances is like the goal in Kathleen gave me this beautiful imagery, right, recently, but is for a church to think of casting their net wider, as if we think of ourselves as fisher of men, right, and capturing folks who maybe wouldn't come to our ministries or our churches for an evangelistic reason specifically, but maybe they came to us because of a food pantry or a clothing drive. And we said, hey, like, I'm glad you're here. We're happy to serve you. What other needs do you have? And oftentimes we've heard from churches that people are victims of payday lenders that are often predatory in nature. They are having trouble managing their finances. And I want to say this out loud from the beginning is that we will never be able to manage our way out of poverty if our income doesn't make ends meet, right? And so no amount of money management will be able to move people out of that situation. So sometimes it is beyond the program in the management, if you will, but I want to speak that out loud, right? That sometimes there's other additions to just simple financial stewardship.
Mm-hmm. We'll be finishing our course middle of November, so I doubt you would be wanting to start your own class, leading your own class until after the holidays, at least January or February. And Carlos already alluded to having to think through, getting some allies and thinking about where you would have it. But as we go through this, be thinking about, who and where and how, and start making some lists. Again, some of you will already have your determined groups to lead the class, but you could be thinking about who else in my neighborhood or around my church too, that I could even invite.
Yeah, that's really good. The other piece that I'd mentioned too is when I think of faith and finances, really the goal behind it is more Christ-centered, restored community for folks. One of the things that we'll start to realize in conversations with the people in our programs is oftentimes there's a level of brokenness in their community, whether it's with their immediate family or they simply lack community. We last year we had work at the university, had worked with a professor that from Stanford, and part of what they found is in our most impoverished communities across the country, the reason why some of them were able to find a way out of poverty, and which is, and I'll come back to this, but the reason some people were able to climb out of poverty was because of their social capital, right? Was something like, hey, I gotta go to work and my mom can't watch my kids today. Neighbor, will you watch my kid for 3 hours? Some people have zero community to be able to do that. And relationships, the level of social capital is part of God's design for us not to live independently, but to live in community. And so again, oftentimes we're building community for our neighbors. And that's something that we also need to be mindful of, is sometimes there's reconciliation that needs to happen in the lives of some of our folks versus some other programs. The goal behind them is more individual financial independence. While that's an admirable goal, I think the goal behind faith and finances is, again, restored Christ-centered community for oftentimes our most vulnerable neighbors. Any questions on the faith and finances curriculum?
This is Kathy.
Hi,
Just
Kathy.
want to make a comment. I think this is really going to work for our Love Inc. In the past, we had a girl do the finance class, and she worked at UC Merced. Even though she struggled and worked her way through college, she still talked a little bit above our clients. So I think this will be perfect for them.
Yeah, I'm encouraged to hear that. And, we've worked in the past with things like universities and banks and credit unions, and sometimes the vernacular is tough for our neighbors to capture. And so I think you're right, because of the care and the design behind the curriculum for a very specific population. We've seen it thrive in contexts like ours. By the way, Kathy, there is a National Love Inc. chapter that's also trained as a lead facilitator in faith and finances. I wonder if there might be a connection to make for you down the road, but I'm saying this out loud now so I don't forget before the end of the course.
Yeah, I'm sure that's where Annette got the information when she
Got
went
it.
to
Okay.
conference. And so
Okay.
Dawn and I, we're going to be working together on this.
Fantastic.
So,
Yeah, and we're very collaborative in nature with so many orgs. And so yeah, again, I think for all of y'all, as we're working like we have collections of rescue missions and nonprofits and churches and denominations that oftentimes we would say like you should be talking to each other, because I think there's some great work that y'all could be doing together, especially for some of those of you who might be in the same neighborhood or city.
Carlos, I also had a question, and
Go ahead, Don.
looking over the curriculum, one of the things that I did notice is that there's a use of what I'd call learning props to actually demonstrate examples and stuff. Is there some sort of list that's available in the facilitator's guide that tells you all of those particular types of props to
Yeah,
acquire?
so we actually do have, at the beginning of each section, it has a little box for the materials that you need for that week. We also have a comprehensive list that someone on our team has put together that you'll receive at the end of the training. I have to look in our inventory, but in the past, we used to also sell like facilitator kits that are pre-prepared for y'all to purchase. In full transparency, we create those boxes and then obviously factor in our office's team's time and mark up the price of the box. So you could probably buy all the materials cheaper individually if you were on a tight budget, but if you're looking for a ready to go box, like our office has had those in the past, but I'm not sure if we have any left. We might need to pull some more together. But that's a great question, Don.
I just assumed that given that we're going to be completing this in sometime mid-November, that would be an excellent time between then and the first of the year to be trying to acquire some of that in order to get ready for being able to facilitate a class. So
absolutely. I love that box because it has like markers and sticky notes, but then it has like a wig and a bunch of other stuff that you need, like the little name signs. There's a ton of like little things that you'll need for the course itself. But that's part of the beauty of the design behind Faith and Finances. It's the reality for our folks coming into our courses. I would say don't be shocked that there's not tears at some point during the class, because there's a lot of shame in finances for many people in our communities. And for them to come to a course and say, I need help, it's God creating that opportunity for us to serve them. But at the same time, it's a big vulnerable space for our folks. And so rather than it being I don't want to call it a therapy session because it's not always what it becomes, but it could become like a community building session. The humor-based skits actually do really well in pulling out some of these things in not so in ways that are not super exposing and vulnerable, right? But there's a story that you'll follow from Eva and Isaac, who are essentially this made up couple, and we're following their story throughout the training, but it's actually a real life representation of what a lot of our folks are going through. And so that those case studies are really well done. And the skits, while in nature might seem super silly, I can't tell you, I've done courses where I've not used the skits, and the dynamic of the courses are a lot different than the courses where I actually do the skits. In terms of the communication, the trust and participation, as well as the reality is we might start a course with 20 people and attrition always happens. We're going to lose people along the way. But for some reason, those kids build community for our folks really, really well. And they're a ton of fun. I don't know. What would you say, Kathleen?
Oh, absolutely. I can still just recall the laughter and people getting up and having to move around during the class and act out. It's like becoming children again in a way, but they had so much fun. And yeah. And also, Carlos's point about there's a lot of shame that people have when they come. You know, I find in the first few weeks, some people really don't say much. And yeah, I've got some stories to share that'll come out during our time together. But, you know, when people do finally get a job, you know, maybe halfway through the course, all of a sudden, you know, they perk up and they have something to contribute in a context more on budgeting and knowing what Eva and Isaac are going through and how they're trying to make the right decisions for their family, and making good choices. Yeah.
Kathleen. You know, and there's so many like success stories that I think of like the classes that we've led. Like I think of one particular gal who would come, her name was Josie. She'd come to class with her adult son who was of special needs. And so he'd sit in the back with her. And she wasn't really interactive much. But when we got to our third or fourth week, she had said, you know, the reason I'm here is because I'm addicted to payday loans, and I've been a victim of payday loans for almost 3 years, right? So she had pulled out one payday loan to pay off the other, and it was just a vicious cycle for her. And by the end of it was like week 10, I think, she came in waving this little piece of paper. And she said, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, and I'm never going back to those slaveholders again. Because when we were working on her finances, she was paying hundreds of dollars of interest in almost every paycheck. And, you know, she worked hard, she made a solid living. But again, just one of the sad situations where she was a victim of predatory lending in our community. And so there's a lot of stories. I think, you know, we don't want to say that it's all doom and gloom in these classes either, right? There's a lot of celebrating, right? But there's a lot of hard stuff that we as facilitators want to prepare you for. And just be honest, like, this is what the space looks like. But at the end of it, like, you know, there's so many people that I've led classes with that I feel like are friends today, you know, and because of the community we've built together.
I don't know about Merced, but, you know, I've heard the statistic in Fresno itself that there are more payday lenders than McDonald's and Starbucks combined. And that is one of the main reasons we brought Faith and Finance to our area, was to combat that, because so many people are in bondage to that. But even one of the classes that I taught, the director of the group came, and she was in most of the classes when she could come because she wanted to see what we were doing. But she came up to me in about week 5 or 6 and she said, oh my gosh, I've started putting down a budget and I can't believe I spend $400 on lunches each month. You know, I need to start bringing my lunch or just realizing how much money I'm spending. And then some weeks later, she said her and her husband had revamped their monthly budget and had started investing that money, that just what they'd saved from not spending so much on the lunches. So that was kind of a neat story too. She was there just as more of a watching our class rather than participating in it, but she gleaned quite a bit.
It's fantastic. All right. Are there any other questions for us by chance?
No.
So I think for week 1, and just, I would say every week as we come in, again, you're going to hear from Kathleen and I on just adding on to what the content is this week. And right, this week really was set up to like, let's get to know each other. Let's dive into the course shell. Let's get you to see what it is and answer any questions about the program itself. But in the coming weeks, we're going to be reviewing the course content from the week as well as casting vision for the following week. And so again, come ready to have discussions. We'll have questions as well as a time to process some of the things that we're learning. Some of the conversations could be a little tough at times. And so we want to be able to be sounding boards in this process.
So I had a question.
Go for it, Gabriel.
So, okay. After this course, we will be receiving a license, correct?
Yes, so you will be able to facilitate the Faith and Finances program in your own community.
Oh, okay. That's exactly what I was trying to do. How can we extend a hand? Because I'm not ashamed because this is see, I believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ. I am not ashamed. Of course, everyone's gonna have some sort of, uh, let's say, trial or tribulation with finances, whether it be with health, whether it be with mental health. Um, right now, I'm dealing with financial instability, and that's okay. It's life. You're gonna get through it, and the Lord brought this upon my heart. He said, he gave it to my pastor, and she was able to pass it down to me so that I can also have breakthrough because I believe in the power of the Lord. I believe that if I extend my hand for help, which a lot of people also is difficult for them to extend a hand for themselves to be helped. So if I can do this, and in the name of Jesus, I claim, I declare, and decree, I will go ahead and extend the hand to others so that way they can learn what I'm learning. So that's what I wanted to know. If how can I use this license? How can I use it to my maximum capacity?
Yeah, and I would say like one of the things that Kathleen and I will be doing is chatting with each of y'all individually, especially as we start offboarding y'all as you complete the program to say like, what are your plans for this? What resources can we put around you? What connections can we make? And again, we have 11 years of running the program in the Central Valley. I think to date, I have to keep updating this number because every cohort we're adding people, but I believe we have about 264 people trained in like 60 churches and like 40 nonprofits and 12 businesses and 6 Section 8 community centers running the Faith and Finances program. Now here's what I would say is like not all of them do a class every semester, every year, but there's capacity there. And then oftentimes people are like, hey, like I'm starting Faith and Finances in Southeast Fresno. Hey, did you know there's 4 other churches that are also trained? Do y'all want to do something together? And we've seen churches partner and collaborate instead of being territorial, right? But partner and collaborate and do fantastic work. We've seen some of our rescue missions partner as well. And so, yeah, I think in terms of like, hey, this training is specific for me to go out and lead Faith and Finances. What's next? Kathleen and I are here to walk with y'all and process that.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank
you so much.
Thanks for bringing that up, Gabriel. We're excited to be in this journey with you.
Thank you. I'm excited as well.
Any other questions, y'all? All right. Kathleen, any final questions before we close our time together?
I don't think so. I would just encourage to let the Spirit move you, stir you, and guide you through this time. This is a spiritual journey, as well as a financial literacy journey. Yeah. And it is about transformation that only Jesus can provide us through this. And may our hearts be transformed, as we go on the journey with others so that they can be transformed as well.
Well said, Kathleen. Hey, Michelle, I see you driving. I see your hand raised.
Okay, so I heard that this is recorded, and since I missed most of the meeting, is it possible for me to get the recording of this so that I can watch it over?
Absolutely. So we've recorded it. We'll email it after the course, and then we'll stick it in the course shell as well. And if there's any questions that you may have for us, Michelle, Kathleen and I will stick our numbers in the chat as well. So if you want to reach out, and you're welcome to contact us and set up a time to chat just to catch you up to speed. But really what we did today is explain the course and, outline the expectations for what it is to be trained as a facilitator in the program and answer any questions that people had along the way.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, but great
Thank you.
question. Glad you were able to jump on here.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, y'all. But if there are no other questions or comments, Kathleen, can I ask you to close us in a word of prayer?
Sure, sure. Lord God, thank you that you are on this journey with us. And thank you for the hearts and the minds of all, everyone in this course with Carlos and me over this next 6 and 7 weeks. Lord, may you truly stir them and just further the vision of what they can do with this course within their own context and beyond. Lord, help them make the margins, build the margins in the rhythm of their weeks to do the coursework. And as they go deeper and deeper, Lord, just give them joy in this journey. And we just thank you. Thank you that they want to make a difference within their workplace, within their neighborhoods, within their communities, Father. And I just pray that you would give them the desires of their heart and help us help them, giving people help for today and hope for tomorrow. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Kathleen. Well, thank you, everyone. Go in peace, and may God keep you and all the work that you continue to lean on. Kathleen and I are here to support you on the journey. I'm going to stick my cell phone number in the chat one more time, just in case you didn't capture that at the beginning. And then just know that you'll be receiving communication after our check-ins, just with the summary of the things we talked about and the things to do for the upcoming week. But anytime, you are welcome to reach out to us with any questions. So thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye.
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 Bye.